Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. I am a huge fan of Masters of the Universe Battleground from Archon Studio, and at the moment I am pre-ordering every new expansion as they release them. As a result, my paint queue is horrific. But it's okay because I am also building an awesome collection of all the heroes and villains from one of my favourite childhood franchises. The most recent wave of releases for the game, that's Wave 5 for those keeping count, which comes shortly after the game's 1-year anniversary, comprises 2 character packs, one for the Masters of the Universe and one for the Evil Warriors. Previous character packs have included 2 characters, terrain elements, plus a selection of new game cards, but for Wave 5 Archon Studio have shaken up the format. This time we are still getting all the cards, but we get 1 named character and 2 generic minions. And this is really cool. I've been saying for a while that I would like some lower level henchman type characters that could slot into a force when you have a few points left to spend. And here they are, Palace Guards for our heroes and hover robots for the villains. With 2 boxes to go through, there's a lot to talk about, so in today's video we are just going to look at the Might and Honor box for the heroes. This box contains Fisto, ably supported by 2 Palace Guards, 16 new cards and a rules leaflet that actually includes a new way to play the game. This is an exciting box, but unfortunately I will say up front, this is, I think, the first time I have been significantly disappointed with choices Archon Studio have made. First, let's look at the plastic. You get 1 small frame in the standard heroic bone colour, and as you can see we have Fisto and our 2 guards with their scenic bases. There are holes in the bases to help you position and support the miniatures as they are in dynamic poses, but to be clear, these are not push fit miniatures, you will need to put them together with glue. Archon always do a fantastic job with their miniatures and they look great. I'm particularly happy to be able to add Fisto to the ranks. He was a firm favourite with me after reading the comic Clash of Arms, where he single-handedly, pun intended, beats the snot out of Clawful and Jitsu and still has enough strength to withstand a battering from Whiplash long enough for He-Man to show up. But while I'm happy with Fisto, I am not so keen on the guards. I couldn't help noticing something seemed off with one of their faces. The nose was too flat and the facial hair seemed too, well, hairy. It looked more feline than human. Turns out that's because this guard actually is supposed to be a feline. My love of Masters of the Universe is rooted in the original action figure line with the associated comics and the Filmation television series. I don't know much about anything later than that, but a quick search online revealed that for the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, the Palace Guard action figure came with a choice of 4 different heads. There were 2 human heads, 1 lizard head, and 1 lion head. Honestly, I really would have rather not had a lion-faced Palace Guard, and this actually would have been a great opportunity to include a selection of different heads so we could customise the miniatures to our preferences. And unfortunately that isn't the end of the choices I don't agree with relating to these guards. If you take a look at the character cards, you will see what I mean. First, on the back we can see there is an image of 2 guards with a different guard highlighted on each card. This is to help you identify which miniature relates to which card. Very useful when both the guards in the picture are wearing visors. It gets worse though. The images on the front of the cards show Guard A, the lion-faced miniature, as being a lizard person, while Guard B, the human miniature, is wearing a visor. So, yeah. Honestly, 1 human with a mask and 1 without would have been ideal for me. I wish they had junked the lizard and lion faces completely or made them optional alternative heads. If they really felt the need to include those alternative appearances, they should have at least applied them consistently across the artwork on the cards. But whatever, what are these guards bringing to the table? Obviously they are cheap units that you can use to bulk out your numbers, and their role is very much that of a meat shield. They cost just 9 points, a full 7 points less than the current cheapest heroic characters Buzz-Off and the Sorceress, who are both 16 points. As you might expect, in terms of stats they are not up to much. They have 3 health, 2 toughness, 2 mind, 1 power, 3 perception and a speed of 4 or 6 when focused. They aren't designed to go toe to toe with most enemies you are going to be facing. Their true value comes from their low cost and their abilities. The ability Endless Heroes allows you to take up to 2 Palace Guards in your force, giving you 2 bodies on the board for the same points it might cost you to bring one of your more powerful heroes. More importantly, they have the ability Heroic Guard. When an ally on an adjacent space is about to be attacked, if that attack can target the Palace Guard, you can redirect the attack. This doesn't have any cost at all, it's just something you can choose to trigger whenever possible. Saving one of your powerful characters by redirecting attacks to wimpy meat shields is incredibly useful. The Palace Guards don't have any starting equipment and they only have 3 item slots. They can take 1 melee item, 1 ranged item and 1 armor item. And that's that. A great addition to the game, even though I don't approve of all of the choices relating to the art and the miniatures. But next up we have the star attraction, Fisto. He weighs in at 18 points, putting him at the top end of the spectrum for cost for heroic characters. Only He-Man costs more at 19 points, or 30 points with Battle Cat. Fisto is the bruiser you would expect him to be. 6 health, 3 toughness, 2 mind, 2 power, 3 perception, 4 strength and a speed of 5 or 8. He has 2 abilities, neither of which have a mana or action point cost. Lone Warrior gives him an Overwatch token if there are no characters within 6 inches at the end of his activation, while Eager to Punch, what a lovely name for an ability, so evocative, gives him +2 dice on the first melee attack he makes immediately after moving. Basically, it's a charge bonus. He has item slots for 1 melee and 1 ranged weapon, 1 armor and 2 trinkets, and his basic equipment is the Metal Fist. It costs 2 points and I don't know why you would leave home without it, as it works perfectly with his Eager to Punch rule. Attacks made with the fist immediately after moving cost 1 action point less to a minimum of 0, making your first charge of the turn free. Furthermore, the fist can push the target, which triggers allies' overwatches and can lead to some devastating combo attacks. This pack also comes with 5 other weapon cards. There is the Halberd, which costs a whopping 3 points, but reduces the number of defense dice your opponent has for each 6 rolled in the attack to a minimum of 2. Black Blaster is also 3 points. It has a range of 16 and attacks with it are classed as skill tests as well as attack tests. That's one of those rules that sounds odd at first until you realise it means you can combo this weapon with other items and abilities that you can't normally use when attacking. Next is the Magic Wand, which costs 2 points and is a very peculiar item. It doesn't use a ranged weapon slot and it doesn't cause any damage in its own right. When you use it, you roll Perception against the target's mind stat and you can spend up to 3 mana, gaining an extra dice for each mana used. If you get 1 success, you can make a free magic attack, while if you get 2 or more successes, the magic attack also costs no mana. This could be very useful for squeezing an extra magic attack out of a character who has already used most of their action points and mana. There are also 2 spells. Chain Lightning costs 4 points, requires 2 mana to use, has a range of 12 inches and grants a bonus attack dice. If at least 1 6 is rolled in the attack, you get a free attack with this spell on another enemy within 6 inches from the target, using 2 fewer dice than the previous attack. This can continue until no 6s are rolled or you run out of mana. And from my reading of the card, there is nothing stopping the lightning from bouncing backwards and forwards between just 2 targets. Finally, we have Motivational Speech, which has some of the worst artwork I have ever seen in a professionally produced game. I'm sorry that sounds harsh. For the most part, Battleground has good, if sometimes workmanlike art, but this piece is a bit of a shocker. The spell is good though. It costs only 1 point, doesn't take up a spell slot, and only requires 1 mana to use. It's custom made for characters like He-Man, as the test uses strength instead of power. There is no target for the spell and no defense roll. You simply roll your dice, and if you get at least 1 success, the next ally activated gains an action. I think it's interesting to see a few more weapons in this expansion that are utility items rather than things that deal damage. Moving on, we get 1 piece of armour. The Inquisitor armour costs 2 points and prevents the wearer from being attacked more than once in any given activation or interruption. That's pretty neat and can really help to keep one of your frontline fighters in the action. We then have 2 trinkets. Wrap is a disposable item that costs 1 point. I do love disposable items. I like the choices they create. This is a nice simple one. The user can discard the item in place of a buff or debuff they are about to lose. Then we have the Magic Shell, which gives a flat +1 defense dice against skills. Note that normally that wouldn't include attacks, as attacks are not classed as skills. However, an attack from the Black Blaster we saw earlier is treated as being a skill test, and therefore the shell would work against it. The last cards in the set are 3 new Fate cards and a Glory card. The first Fate card grants an extra action and mana if there are no characters within 6 inches of the activated character. The second lets you use active skills twice, and the third lets you add +1 to the scope of all of your attacks, which is great if you intend to have a very violent turn. The Glory card grants 30 victory points if you can make it to the 3rd round without losing any characters. so probably not one to take if you plan on bringing along the squishy palace guards. That is almost it for this expansion, other than to point out the enclosed rules leaflet has some additional rules for a new mode of play. This new game mode allows team combat with 2 players on each side. Effectively, each player has their own squad. They will play their own fate and glory cards and take their own turns, but characters belonging to their teammate are classed as allies and you are pooling your victory points. It's all pretty straightforward stuff, and while I can't ever see myself using these rules, it's a nice addition to the game. But there we go, that's it. All good stuff, I reckon. Overall, it seems like a decent set. Fisto looks like a solid choice for a frontline fighter, and the Palace Guards are going to be really useful for keeping your key units alive. I wish the Palace Guard miniatures, and especially their art, were different, but that's the only thing I can really complain about here. It's otherwise a great box of stuff that adds a huge amount of build options between the new characters and the new equipment and fate cards. I don't have much else to say really, so before you go, let's take a quick look at these miniatures when they are assembled. As expected, these all went together really nicely. They are accurately keyed and any gaps are minimal. Pieces go together in such a way that joins aren't obvious. They are often hidden by the lines of armour or other clothing. There aren't a lot of mould lines to clean either. Archon tend to keep the miniatures in relatively few pieces. Fisto was only 5 including the base, while the guards were 6 each including the bases, yet the poses are still dynamic and interesting. I love Fisto's stance, winding up a punch with his feet firmly planted. And the guards look good too, even if by their very nature they are not particularly spectacular. And that really is it. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you've really enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone, bye bye.